Hey everybody, and welcome back to 2BeLikeChrist. In the last video, we looked at the end of James chapter 3 and how it connects with the first part of James 3, and how James is concerned with jealousy and selfishness that's crept into the people that he's writing to. They're deceived thinking that they're wise and they're actually not. He talks about godly wisdom and that looks like meekness, it looks like peace, it looks like gentleness. And a man who can achieve peace with the people that he's working with is a man who can sow a harvest of righteousness for the glory of God and for the good of souls all over the world. James is going to ask the question and then answer it as to why are the people that he's writing to not as effective in sowing a harvest of righteousness as they should be. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and you do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask, and you ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. His question is, why are there so many problems? Why are there so many quarrels in the church? And his answer is, well, it's because your passions, your desires are at war with each other. Everyone has a different desire or is trying to accomplish a different thing or wants the notoriety for themselves or want others to look at them and have their ideas respected and for them to be the center of attention. He says, and all of these things war against each other and they disrupt the peace that's necessary to sow the harvest of righteousness. Even if you're working in a church, doing church work, you're never going to accomplish more than fighting if you're motivated by your own desires and your own passions and your own pleasures. You're never going to achieve the peace at the end of chapter 3 if you have the same motives as they did at the beginning of chapter 4. It doesn't matter what you do, what you try to accomplish, how godly it appears. It's always going to be handicapped from the get-go if your motives are incorrect and if you're motivated by the wrong things. And unfortunately, what James is talking about here happens in our churches a lot, and even personally I've had experience with it. Maybe myself, maybe somebody else tries to put together an activity, a program to accomplish something that needs to be done, something that the church needs to be doing and maybe isn't. And they get together and they have a meeting, and maybe on the first meeting or maybe shortly after, things go sour because people don't feel like they're being respected. They want their ideas to be at the forefront. They are disturbed by the fact that someone in that group did them wrong in the past. Any number of things, right? Rather than seeking the glory of God and working to accomplish and fill the gap that the church needs to in order to be faithful to God's word, they're bickering, interested in selfish ambition and sometimes jealousy. I imagine that that's probably happened in your church. So what do we do? How do we make application? How do we be doers of the word and not just hearers like James wants us to? I think one of the first things that we could probably do is that whenever our congregations or a group of people, small group that you're a part of, want to start something, maybe the first thing to do isn't to sit down and have a strategy meeting or to have everybody come forward with their ideas or their innovations or a tool that needs to be used, but rather to slow it down and to take some time to pray and take some time to talk to the people who are going to be involved and ask them to evaluate their heart and evaluate the need in front of them and to make sure that their motives are pure, and then to come together to pray for each other, spend some time talking over why you're doing what you're doing, what needs to be done and what the real need is, and how that's going to be done in a way that isn't selfishly or jealously motivated. And I know that that's really hard because everybody wants to get going immediately once they have a great idea, and you don't want to squash that zeal. But I think the best way for us to protect our good ideas as we look long term is to make sure that there's a foundation and that there's a field in which those good ideas can grow and be built. And this is probably a lot of the reason that Jesus blesses the peacemakers, because it's them who are going to cultivate the field to make accomplishing things possible. Mr. Crab, come here.